Hi, friends. My name is Sydney Zarlingo. I she, her pronouns. If you're on my channel, you probably know who I am at this point. But if you're new here, that's cool. Hi, welcome. My channel is mostly disability rights things and LGBTQ things and vintage stuff because look at me. But I have created this series that was originally just going to be one video because I was like, well, I'm in acting training and there's nobody like me in the world of theater, and so I found one and I interviewed him and I was like, that's it. That's the end of that. We're going to move on. And then I discovered that there's actually more people. Very exciting. So now this is a series because people actually want to talk to me. Um, and I'm just really thrilled about it. So we have a guest today. Introduce yourself.
I'm Timothy Allen McDonald, and I'm the founder and CEO of iTheatrics and the Junior Theater Festivals worldwide. And I am also a musical theater librettist. Yeah, those are my stats as in terms of career. In terms of life, I'm a gay male, and picking musical theater libretto writing as a career was an odd choice because I'm also incredibly dyslexic. So, it's I can't imagine. It's like choosing something that is really difficult to do because of having these challenges, but that you still choose it and embrace it. And I think I've done enough now to say that I'm actually succeeding at it, even though it's a very unlikely thing on the surface for a dyslexic to become a writer.
I also am very much of the opinion of like, if you want to do it, figure it out, and everybody else will just deal with it, which
Exactly.
doesn't always work out for the best. But in the end, you end up doing the thing you like to do, and other people get mad. It's a good situation. So the kind of idea of this whole thing is, oh, there's actually people who are like me who are in the theater, and obviously, in my experience at least, it's been not the worst, but it's been pretty darn bad trying to get anywhere and trying to like do anything because people just have never seen somebody like me before and they don't know how to handle it. And there's so much discrimination, and just the education system itself to get there is a whole disaster. So you probably have struggles, I would assume, and I would love to know what they are, if you don't mind sharing, of course.
No, not at all. The thing about being dyslexic is that it can't be seen, so it manifests itself in other ways. So I think for me and for I would say for other dyslexics, it's something you sort of do in secret, and you hope that no one figures out that the reason your spelling is challenged is because you're dyslexic, or that whatever, however it manifests itself, because it's different with different people. So I think that's you know it was hard to actually come out and say, like, oh, by the way, especially to like my fellow writing partners, because in musical theater I write with a composer and a lyricist, and so to be able to say and be like, oh, by the way, this, um, it took me a long time to be able to admit that because I didn't want people to think that I was somehow inferior or not smart enough or that sort of thing. But once I did, like the first time, that I was like, and they were like, okay, well, you write really well, so whatever, let's go. Then it became something I was more, just happy to say. I never lost a gig because I was dyslexic. So yeah, I just went out and did it and cut my path, and yeah, it takes me a little bit longer than other people, but I still do it, and then the work's good, so that's okay.
Yeah, valid. If you don't mind me asking, are you like, you also totally don't have to answer this, but were you like late diagnosed dyslexic, or did you know since you were little, like going through education and stuff?
Yeah, no, I was really late diagnosed in college. And what's interesting is my older brother, and we're 16 years apart, was diagnosed as dyslexic. He was also, um, so this is like 1958, right? And he was also converted from, he's naturally left-handed but was forced to be right-handed, which put another layer to it.
Yeah.
And I didn't know any of this until much later in life. And then when I was in college, and it was my voice teacher who actually was like, I think you're dyslexic. And she was the one who sent me over to the university, which had resources to help me find this, diagnosis. But for my brother, who had no resources, it really set him back because he was labeled as at that time mentally ill and was like put into special education, in all those horrible terms, which really turned him off to education. And what's interesting is he's an avid reader now. At like age 70 something, he loves to read. So yeah, it was a late diagnosis, and by then I'd had all the coping mechanisms had already been in place. So there was nothing for me to do or to really learn. I was a highly functioning dyslexic, which was reassuring.
So was it more of like a, oh, thank goodness I'm not weird kind of thing? Like, did it get you any more supports to get through the rest of? Because I was diagnosed autistic like first year of college, so it doesn't really pan out to many supports that actually helped me for like my next couple years. Because at that point you're like, well, we've already gotten this far. But I don't know.
Well, interesting enough, at the same time, my best friend was also diagnosed as autistic around the same time that I was dyslexic. And we had gone all through high school and everything together, and then ended up at the same universities in the same, studying music also. And so I think for both of us, it was a more matter of, oh, all right, well, there's a reason we're weird, but you know what I mean? It was like, but you're right, it was too late by then. It would have been really helpful, to have known that and maybe learned some of the coping mechanisms from someone else instead of just everyday failure.
Yeah.
But, eh, you know, by the time you're 19 or 20, you're like, well, okay. That, it's kind of nice. You're like, oh,
Yeah. I'm not weird. I'm not stupid. I'm just different. Okay, that makes sense. So,
exactly.
so that being said, since you went through most of your education without knowing that you were dyslexic, how did you navigate that? What random, you may not even remember what random coping mechanisms you may have created, because I know that I have random things that I just do naturally that I'm now like, oh, that's a thing. Um, but if you could think of any of those things, like what were your ways of kind of getting through, I guess?
For dyslexics, it tends to come down to those of us who figure it out. It's about we analyze content, and everything is looked through a lens of like, in this situation, is this a three or an E? I think I did those backwards, but and so if there's numbers around it, it's a three. If there's other letters around it, it's the letter E. That's the simplest way I could put it. And so our brain, if you're fortunate enough to figure out these coping mechanisms, really looks at everything around you at all times, and then you have to look at that context to determine what you're seeing. Is it this or is it that? Which when I chat with other young people, well, young people, I'm not young, but when I chat with young people about this, I'm like, here's the thing. There is an advantage if you do embrace it and learn to cope with it, because you do see the world differently and you think differently. And there's a reason that most CEOs are dyslexic, and most startup companies are formed, and new ideas come from people who are dyslexic, because we have to think differently to survive. So what I say to young people, I just said it to a young woman at JTF Atlanta, the Junior Theater Festival. It was like, you may think of this as your, disability or your holdback, but it's actually going to end up being your superpower.
For sure. I, yeah, I'm trying to think of how words work. I'm good with words. That's my job. I feel like there's so much of like, oh, this actually, what's a disability isn't really a disability as long as I have accommodations. It's actually, a positive thing that makes me who I am. And I love that as an identity. But then at the same time, then it like, you try to go to people being like, no, for real. Like, I swear, like, applying to jobs, I'm saying, yeah, I'm openly disabled and autistic, and this is going to this makes me different. This means that I can look at the world differently. And they see that on my resume and they immediately take it off the list. And I've started applying to jobs without that on my resume, and I'm getting more job offers. And so it's really difficult to be like, oh, this is like my superpower, but then also having the world be like, okay. And so on one level, like I wouldn't want to work with those people who saw that on my resume and immediately threw it off the table. But on another level, it's like, but would I have changed their mind if I were in the position? And it's a whole like, how does one navigate when that's an okay identity? Like part of having an invisible disability is, when is it okay to be, at what point can you say, yeah, I'm proud that this is my identity, and at what point do you have to hide it in order to get where you need to go, in order to be like, yeah, I've done the thing, also heads up, I'm autistic. Like, how do you navigate that?
Yeah, we talked about this just a little bit earlier. For me, I kept it just as like it's my own secret thing, and then once people know me, then I'm like, oh, by the way, blah blah blah. Um, the world just isn't there yet, and I think it's like I believe that humans innately can be kind and generous and all the good things, but also get very afraid when there's things they haven't been exposed to. Is like, ooh, that's different and weird. So I don't know. I've always been, for me, the path of least resistance is to show up and be awesome, and then be like, oh, by the way, this, hoping that that person, if I leave a big enough trail behind me, then someone could go and be like, oh, by the way, I'm dyslexic, and they'd be like, oh my God, you're dyslexic? Yes, we need you in this because we need someone with that skill. And I would think it's the same with, autism, is that there should be that point where people are like, yes, we need someone who thinks like this on our team. That would be awesome. But I just don't think we're there yet.
Yeah,
I
no,
think we're getting closer. The fact that we're having this conversation, and that,
yeah,
it's, look, for my age, change is slow. And it's that way. And there's a good side to that and a bad side to it. The good side is that it's more lasting when it's slow. It really sticks.
yeah.
Um, the downside is that it's slow, and you're like, let's go, come on.
Especially because like I know a lot of the world right now is very focused on like, we're going to do diversity, equity, and inclusion, and they're all like completely 100% for it. Especially the theater is like, yeah, we're going to do so much of that, and then they just forget disability altogether when they're doing that. And so they're like, yeah, we want diverse people, and then they're like, oh, I don't know about that one. I've never seen that one before. Sorry, I'm out. Like, having Ali Stroker, when she won her Tony, like they didn't even have a ramp for her to get on stage. They had to have her backstage so she could roll onto the, like, just the little things that they're like, oh yeah, those people exist. We're going to be very focused on diversity and talk about how focused we are on that, and having, queer people, people of color. And then they're like, yeah, but everybody else, you can just exist. And I think I didn't realize historically how much of a gap there is between those civil rights movements to make me go, oh, like the neurodivergency movement didn't start until the mid 90s. So, of course, we're going to be super delayed. Like, it completely makes sense. And realizing that we're watching this change happen in real time and we're a part of this change in real time is really mind boggling to me, that like we're seeing this, sort of civil rights reckoning sort of happen even over the last couple of years of the pandemic, when like everybody's realizing, oh, I do have a learning disability, or I do have autism, because all of a sudden they weren't forced to mask 24/7 and they had to be home, and they were like, wait a second, I'm actually have more energy in the day when I don't have to socialize, and all of these things. And I think that it is growing, and it's really cool to see. And hopefully things are changing. My goal is that they will, if only because I'm about to enter the workforce, but also because, I want things to change, and I want to have more conversations like this and have people like us represented in more places.
Yeah, it's a noble quest. It'll be a lifelong quest, and it'll make a difference. The outcome will be positive. Absolutely. I hear you about, everyone's on this, we're going to be inclusive, but we're also like forgetting things like women on the whole are completely underrepresented in the musical theater writing, producing, directing world also, which is 51% of the population. So, and and for my female writing friends and partners and directing folks, there's also a sense from them of like, oh great. I mean, yes, I'm for inclusion, I'm for all of this, but do I have to step aside? Like, so are we forgotten also? Because by the way, we're not represented. There's not even shows about women, let alone written by or produced by or directed by, or so it's a mixed bag. um, but these conversations will help that. It will.
How, I mean, I guess you kind of already answered this, but we'll try again, I guess. Um, how specifically have you been able to, I know that like in the writing process, kind of, when working with peers, you kind of, not until you know them, say like you're dyslexic, but how have you been able to get the accommodations that you need and advocate for that and like exist in a space that says is welcoming and then isn't, because most places are like that, unfortunately. And how does that work for you? And how have you been able to work around that in order to get to the cool things that you're doing today?
It's still a matter. Well, now it's like I'm completely open dyslexic. I'm like, yeah, I'm dyslexic. So it's not such a an issue or a challenge anymore. But I do have to remind my writing partners that like, yeah, my spelling is gonna be a mess, but it's not a reflection on my ability to write. So, and it's also not an ability that I'm dumb or that, you know, it's just that spelling is very arbitrary. The rules are, and for someone who sees letters differently than yours, it's another layer that makes it very challenging. So just have some patience, but trust my thoughts because my thoughts are right. They're going to be good. So and they do, but there's
Yeah.
frustration of like, I write collaboratively on the screen at the same time from two different locations. And so, as I'll be going, and then I'm like, oh shoot, I screwed up that word. I'll go back and fix it. And now my other writing partners will just be like, fix it for me. They're just like, boom, done. So it works out.
Do you prefer to like handwrite or type?
I type. I piano. I play piano and grew up playing piano. So for me,
Same.
typing it's a direct wire. Writing is too slow,
Yeah.
and I type very quickly.
I'm the same way. 7 years of piano. Like once I got a computer in my hands, now I can just like, I wrote two papers this morning. I can just go and it's really great. Um, and then my other question was kind of like, I guess we also kind of already touched on this, but I feel weird being like, so what is your, why are you worth hiring? Why is your disability an asset? Like that just feels gross and very like capitalist oriented. But also unfortunately, like logistically with conversations like this, people won't, be open to change unless they see that there is going to be an added benefit to it, I guess. So do you have any specific, I mean, we talked about how we think differently for sure, but is there anything else that like makes you, I don't know.
When if you're working in anything that's a collaborative experience, don't we all want as many different points of view as possible? Because that's going to, whatever we're creating, it's going to make it better. It's scientifically proven that when there's really good collaboration, the results are much better than what one person can accomplish singularly. That's the nature of the hive mind that humans have evolved and have been able to thrive with. So why wouldn't we want that? Why? The other side to look at it, I guess, is that you're missing a piece of the pie without it. So to me, it's just like dead obvious. It's completely logical and scientific. That's maybe a stretch, but you know what I'm saying.
I get what you're saying. Yeah. All right. Everything else after this is just kind of like fun things because I want to like know who you are as a human. What are you working on right now? And what is your favorite thing that you're working on right now?
So every show that I was working on that was supposed to open in 2020 has been delayed to now. So I have three shows that are actively in process. One is Between the Lines, which will open off Broadway this June and run through October here in New York City. At Second Stage, which is where Dear Evan Hansen got its start also. So I'm hoping for a little Justin and Benj positivity there.
Any good vibes?
And I've been working on an adaptation of The Book Thief, which is a gorgeous novel by Marcus Zusak, which explores the Holocaust through the eyes of a young German Jewish orphan, and incredibly moving. And that will open in the UK in September of this year. And then I have had this passion project for so long, Sydney. It's Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas, and it was Jim Henson's first full length special TV special movie, and it's very sweet. And it's the first time anyone will see Henson puppetry live on stage. So we were able to open this year at Christmas here in New York City at the New Victory Theater. We were sabotaged by COVID, like you cannot imagine. We were able to complete our run except for the last performances, but now we're trying to sort out where the next place for that is. And then, of course, I've started a new musical that is just barely 3 weeks old. So I'm excited by all of them. I have this need, this driving need to create while I can and to create as much as I can while I can. And I have relentless energy when it comes to those things. So, that's me in a nutshell.
I totally, two things. One, I've read The Book Thief 48 times because clearly I didn't have friends in middle school. It's also the reason I speak German. So shout out, I'm so incredibly excited for that.
Well, and you actually is what you look like in terms of your hair and your coloring is what I imagine Liesel to have looked like. So it's really interesting. Also, your vintage outfit is helping, of course.
Aw, thank
Like,
you.
as I've been looking at you, I'm like, I feel like I'm being interviewed by Liesel.
I'm honored. That actually genuinely means a whole lot to me. And yeah, hopefully, I don't know if it goes from the UK to the US and you need someone, just I'm around. There's never been an openly autistic person in a national tour on a Broadway stage. That's my goal to change. So
Wow, it's
we'll
time.
see.
It's time.
It is time. It is very much time. But yeah, what was I going to say? Oh my goodness. I was supposed to spend this semester doing equity theater and not be at school. And it was a really great plan because I spent the fall at a physical theater academy in Italy. And so I was like, it's great. I'll go straight from there to doing full-time theater for a semester. And then I'll go back to do my senior thesis is the first fully neurodivergent cast and crew edition of Curious Incident. And that's going to be next year. So I was like, I'm going to do all these things and it's going to be super great. And then COVID happened right when auditions were going on. And I had to make a decision. Am I going to pay the 52,000 whatever to go to college this semester or guess on a career that I don't have? So I ended up having to come back, but I'm trying to like keep as little pieces of theater as I can in my life, even though I'm in like entirely neuroscience classes right now because I finished all my theater credits. But I am so excited for the show, and if I were in the UK, which I'm not, I would go see it a million times. So that's really great. The other thing that I was going to say is that you said that you like to do things that like you come up with an idea and you go. I don't know if that's like a neurodivergent thing, but like the other weekend I just wrote a 3-song EP in the span of a weekend and then just like finished it, produced it, sent it to spot. Like, I don't know why our brains come up with ideas and they're just like, we're gonna do the whole thing right now. But I very much feel that. Do you like how I don't want to say how fast have you written the script, but I also do want to say how fast have you written the script because I'm sure that there's one that you were like, oops, I did that in a week.
Yeah, no, I write. I used to think I wrote very quickly until I met Jody Pico, who's my writing partner, and she takes her brain is more of an OCD sort of thing, and she can't stand when something's not done or a problem's not solved. She has to solve it in the moment, and I have that, but my brain also. I think part of it is because of the dyslexia, so I'm used to stepping back and reflecting, so I write really quickly, but if I can't solve something in the moment, I know I will when I come back to it. So I'll move ahead. and then come back and go, oh, boom, done.
So are
Uh,
you able to like reread and edit your work? Because I feel like I can't edit papers.
oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Interesting. Is that a skill that one can gain?
Yes, you just do it. And you know a trick I learned? Read them out loud.
Ah,
If you read it out loud, your editing skills go from here to like off the charts. And you'll catch mistakes that you didn't know were there, and just read it out loud.
all right. Noted. I don't know if I have any other questions other than this is fun, and I'm really excited that I got the chance to meet you. And like, I'm not alone. I keep, in my experience with theater education, I went into my first acting class here, and I was like, this is great. Like, acting is my one skill because I've been masking my whole life. Like, I'm really good at this. My English teacher in high school said if I didn't audition for the spring play senior year, she was going to fail me in the class. And that's the whole reason I do theater now, was because she made me do that. And so I went into my first acting class like, oh, I'm a pro. This is going to be super easy and it's going to be so good. And that was when I discovered that the way that theater is taught to people, the way that arts are taught to people, are very centered on the cis male neurotypical experience. And that they are on, especially with theater, like traumatizing for everybody else. And I was told by my professor, week 2 of class, the theater isn't made for people like you. Point blank, that was it. And so I left that class going, great, so I'm a failure and I can't do any of the careers I want to do. And I just like felt like that there was nowhere to go. And I asked him for my accommodations because I, require them. And he basically just said, you figure out how they teach for people like you and you let me know what you need. And so I did some research. First of all, I have the Americans with Disabilities Act memorized now, and I can, come back at him with, I did that with my last teacher, but I didn't with him because I didn't know it at the time. But I did a bunch of research and I was like, there has to be somebody somewhere who has this experience. It has to exist. And I only found one person. And so I messaged him on Facebook, like, Mickey Rowe, what do I do? I'm panicking. And he was like, yeah, it's bad. Like, I have no advice for you other than like, he was so sweet and he's my good friend now, but he was just kind of like, I'm here with you. I don't know how to change it, but I want you to know that you aren't alone. And that helped me so much through this. And then, through working with him and spending more time in the world and now going into theater education again with the lens of I know what disability rights are now and I know about education because I've studied education now, I can go in and be like, okay, this isn't right, this is not how this should be going, and this isn't fair, and all of those things. But I still feel like I have no representation, which is fine because I'm used to being a trailblazer. But then every now and then I'm just exhausted and I want to talk to somebody who has the same experience as I do, and then I can't because they don't exist. So when you like the book thief appeared on my like your announcement of it happening or something appeared on my feed, and I freaked out and I just like reposted it because I was like, my favorite book is a musical. And then you followed me back and I was like, hold up, friend. Oh, maybe like another person like me. So I just want to thank you for existing, I guess, is where I'm going with this. Because I don't think people realize how important just being authentically yourself is until there's somebody else who's never seen somebody like them before, sees that and realizes like, oh, I'm not alone and I can do this. Because, the whole you can't be what you can't see kind of thing. You can, but it's exhausting. It takes a lot of extra effort and it's easier to have somebody. So yeah, I guess that's my spiel on that. If you have anything else you want to say or anything.
I've never been thanked for existing, and that feels great.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Great. It does. And sorry I reached back here, but my puppy was chewing on something that she shouldn't have been, and I caught it in the mirror and was like, oh.
How old is your puppy? Tell me everything.
She's a year and a half.
What kind of dog?
She is, if I can grab her, come here. She's a schnoodle. Come here. Dutch. Sit. There we go. She's adorable. She's like this. Come here. Here.
That's okay.
This is proof that she exists.
Oh, okay. I heard her bark once, so I know that she's real.
Oh, I got her. Ha, ha, ha.
Oh my goodness, hi.
Say hi, Dutch.
She's so cute.
She is cute. She's super smart. Super sweet. Yes. But still choose things occasionally. Go.
That's okay. It happens.
It's all right. Good. No, thank you for having me on and for reaching out and all of that. It's great getting to know another human being. And thank you for existing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, it's very nice to meet you. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. To everybody watching, I also hope you have a lovely rest of your day. And yeah, I'll see you all in the next one.
Yes.
Good. Bye. It was so nice to meet you.
Yes. Have a good day.
You too.